Welcome back. Congressman Denny just returned from Afghanistan, among other areas around the world. He represents the 10th district, which includes 46,000 service members at JBLM, and joins us live in studio. Congressman, it's good to have you here this morning.
Thank you, Mark, very much.
So we know that you represent a very key military district serving overseas there. What was it like in Afghanistan there?
Well, first of all, I have the honor to represent Joint Base Lewis-McChord, which does, in fact, at the present time have about 4,200 of its service members over there. It's a tough slog over there. We've got, I think, a pivotal 10 months coming up. And when people ask me, what do I think the future holds for Afghanistan, I say pay attention to the next 10 months, because there are three things that are going to happen that I think are going to determine its future long term.
And what are they?
First of all, the negotiations of the bilateral security agreement with the United States. That's what we didn't get done in Iraq, and as a result, we were out in the altogether. Second, this is the fighting season, their euphemism for they're engaged in pretty heavy combat now. And for the first time, the Afghans are out front. Heretofore, we've been out front, and then we were shoulder to shoulder, but it's the first time they're out front. We've stood them up. Can they do it? Can they secure their own nation's future? And thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, next April 5th, they're supposed to have a presidential election. We'll see if it comes off, and if it does, is it broadly perceived as being legitimate, and its outcome legitimate. Pay attention to those three things.
Yeah. What about the Karzai government? Some people say the Karzai government has kind of been part of the problem in all of this. What's your assessment of, you met with one of his key military advisors?
We met actually with his national security advisor, which is a member of his inner circle, as a matter of fact. Well, to be determined, right? Yeah. Is he going to actually make sure these elections go forward? Is he going to make sure that they're going to be held in a way that we would perceive as fair and that gives people an opportunity to participate, where the results aren't rigged? Yeah. Thus far, the run-up is very encouraging.
Yeah. What's your gut tell you on all of this? We have a lot of tribal forces in the area that really have run this area for hundreds and hundreds of years.
If not 1,000.
Yeah.
Well, I've thought all along that it's time to come home as quickly as we can safely, and that's a really important consideration. When we first entered Afghanistan, now more than a decade ago, President Bush said we were going for two reasons. One, Osama bin Laden with extreme prejudice, and number two, disrupt al-Qaeda and render them unable to use it as a staging ground for carrying out further terrorist attacks on America. By just about anybody's account, there are fewer than 75 al-Qaeda activists left in Afghanistan, and of course we know Mr. bin Laden's fate. Yeah. So on that basis, it is time to come home. We have about 65,000, give or take, troops there now. In February, we're going down to 34,000. The only question is, past next year, what will it look like? And again, those three things will determine the future.
You also went to Qatar. Why did you go there?
There's an Air Force base there that supports our actions in Afghanistan. More importantly, though, Mark, we had the privilege to go to the Regional Medical Center at Landstuhl. That's where those who are injured...
Germany?
Yes, in Germany, near Stuttgart. Wow. And that's where soldiers who are injured in Afghanistan are taken if they're seriously enough injured. And it was... very sobering. Yeah. Very poignant.
I understand that you met with a young female soldier wounded. What was that meeting like? What did you guys talk about?
Well, she was unable to talk. Wow. And because of obvious reasons, I won't use her real name. Let's call her Specialist Rachel Smith. And she was in the intensive care unit. We walked in, they gowned us up, and she had a neck brace on, probably 40 to 50 stitches. The doctor told us 10 or 12 broken bones. She'd been rolled over 3 times. We later learned, just the day before, she'd just come out of surgery. And I have to tell you, of a lot of the punctuation marks over the course of my lifetime, the privilege to be able to hold her hand and wish her well and thank her on behalf of a lot of people was one I will carry with me forever.
Wow. You also went to Kosovo. Let's talk about that. That was
that's a happy story.
That's a happy story. It was coming apart at the seams not that long ago.
I came back completely full of optimism. We met with their prime minister, the top dog in Kosovo, and several of the deputies. And that's a nascent democracy that looks like it's going to work. Now, we still have a very tiny presence there from a military standpoint, and they still have their problems, to be sure. But they're getting some traction, as they say. They have a long way to go, but it was unbelievably encouraging because they're full of optimism. And we kept hearing these stories about people who had left during the worst of the times. came to America, some of them who made it pretty good in America, they went home to be a part of rebuilding the democracy, the market-based economy of Kosovo. Thumbs up. I am very optimistic about Kosovo.
Well, it's good to have you here. Thank you for debriefing us on the trip that you had, and it's a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, we'll let you get back to D.C. and back to work.
Thank you,
A lot of other issues back there. Thank you, Congressman Denny Heck. All right, helping our combat veterans face the difficult transition when they return home. NBC's Gabe Gucci.